I'm Garry Lyon and welcome to Access All Areas. There's a number of surprise packets at the top end of the ladder, but probably one of the most unexpected sights at the moment is Port Power, who will struggle to make the top four, maybe even the top eight, Damien Barrett.
Yeah, I'm not writing them off yet, Gary. I mean, we have now got a body of work of 8 matches to assess them, and there are issues. There's attitudinal issues as much as anything else. I reckon
When would you write
cozy.
them off when they're 13th on the ladder,
Well,
percentage ahead of Melbourne?
They're one game out of the 8, Gary, if you want to use a win-loss.
So the Demons are in the mix?
Well, they're in the mix, mathematically, but they're 3 and 5. I mean, the team that makes the prelim final last year, guys, you're not going to write them off when they go 3 and 5. But there are worrying signs, aren't they? They have got complacent over the off-season, and there are things like this, and you pick up the footy side of it here, that are worrying.
Yeah, Matty White just standing on the wrong side at a stoppage, and Brandon Ellis is able to get it to Martin, who is able to body out his opponent. Look at that for a turnover. I mean, that's the Hoff, who's so critical to this side, and he's been ordinary. And these are the concerns that certainly Ken Hinkley will have. I mean, they've lost their last 3 games, 2 of those at home against West Coast and Richmond, and in between that they dropped a game to Brisbane, who had won 1 game. I mean, look at that. Fundamental turnovers. I mean, everyone's onto it now. Their inability to transition from the back half's been an issue, whereas once it was a great strength. And look, last week, there was a vision of Matthew White last year, burning off opponents, kicking the goal of the year. This year he can't and kicks it out on the full.
Do you think the acquisition of Paddy Ryder too almost is symbolic of where they're at in the headspace? That was the missing link for us last year. We bring him in and it's just going to naturally happen.
Well, yeah, I guess on the surface you would have thought he and Lobie were going to make a mess of Ivan Maric, and in the end probably Ivan was more constructive around the ground. So I don't write him off either, but the top 4 is where you've got to be if you want to contend for a premiership, and that is going to be a very, very hard road.
Another team that's lost 3 in a row, Gaz, the Bulldogs. Their bubbles have burst, and this first play, the opening bounce, there's some tough bodies of Melbourne here. Vandenberg, Spencer gets it back. What's Jeremy Howe here? Very courageous, or very just strong at the ball. Bulldogs players being shrugged aside there, Gaz.
Yeah, look, and you don't say that against Melbourne, but they came with a great attitude, and you know, we were all excited about the Western Bulldogs for a long time, but they also have just had a reality check, and one of the big issues for them is their ruck. And I mean, Will Minson out, and we'll talk about Will in a moment, and it's been Ace Cordy in. He's been monstered. He had 3 hit-outs last week against Freo, and Jake Spencer played his best game for Melbourne. The clearance domination for the Demons was profound.
Yep.
And I guess in the end, Luke Beveridge is going to have to make a call, because in the end they said, nah, we'll push him forward. And then Jack Fitzpatrick was up against him. Now, Jack Fitzpatrick's been a bit of a toiler as well. Played like Ross Glendenning on Ace Cordy at fullback and centre-half back. So that hasn't worked. You've got to have to take your medicine there.
You do you? OK, I don't mind the experiment, because they needed to work out, guys. He was drafted in 2008. That's a long time ago. And up until 3 weeks ago, they didn't know if he could play footy or not. But they know now.
2008? He
was drafted in 2008.
It's now 2015.
I know, but they didn't know if he could play or not.
How can you not know?
Well, sometimes big guys take a long time.
Well, 7 years.
I tell you what, though, they now know. And he doesn't play in round 9, surely. And is that his career over now? Is that what you were saying right now?
No, there's a big question mark over it. I mean, he's got no presence in the ruck, and he had no presence going forward against Jack Fitzpatrick.
But by playing him in those last 3 matches, they now
you've got to find out, that's for sure.
Bernie Vince, Gaz, a great year he's compiling, given he's come off a very bad shoulder injury, and he did a number on Bontempelli.
This guy Bontempelli we love, and he single-handedly beat Melbourne. I think it was last year when he kicked that miracle goal at Etihad Stadium. That would have been the forefront of their mind. So they went to the man that's already made a mess of Cochin and Dangerfield this year, and he's a barometer. He's a barometer, Bernie, when he's up and about and playing well. Because I don't say he tagged Bontempelli. He played on him and he beat him. And this was symbolic. In the last dying moments, he kicked this absolute sealer from that actual play there, and then the last goal of the game. So he kicked 2 in the last quarter. He had over 10 possessions. And it wasn't a tagging job. He played... It was Vince v Bontempelli. Vince ended up with 26, Bont ended up with 12.
And doing that off the back of a very interrupted pre-season. Hey, the man you mentioned a moment ago, Will Minson, who's playing VFL this year because of Ace Cordy's experiment in the seniors. 2 incidents with an umpire in the VFL in the weekend. We're just going to bring you both of them. And this has now caused Minson to be sent to the tribunal, the judiciary there of the VFL. Now, you can say
a little left slap to the back. Is that what it was? Or slap or touch or push?
Yep. Some form of contact that has made the umpire stop and take note, and ultimately send Will Minson from the ground and report him for making contact. That's one incident. This is another one. Again, moments before. We'll just take a look and you'll see here, we'll just brush past the umpire who has his arms out. Well,
I understand what you're saying. That one there, Damo, when you're in close proximity.
Yep.
And I know, so, don't touch him. And if there's been 2 instances in the space of a very short period of time, then you'd have to pull Will aside and say, mate, keep your hands away from the umpire. I don't for a second think any of them were demonstrative, but I understand your frustration with Will.
Well, to me, I just
keep your hands off them.
Don't touch umpires under any circumstance, and then you're not talking about it like we are right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you in principle. I'd hate to see him... He was red-carded, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Sent off the ground.
Yep.
That's why one will never get brought into AFL, by the way. Yeah, but don't touch him, Will, but I hope he doesn't miss.
Yeah, I'm the same, but again, don't touch them. We're not talking about it.
Tell me, what's happened with Carlton and Mick Malthouse has been a story for the last...
President Mark Legiudice met yesterday with the legal advisor on the Carlton board, Marcus Clark. Now, you could read a bit into that, but they're friends having coffee, but it was a meeting on a Sunday morning.
At circumstances this time, you read something into everything.
You do when the club is going to sit Mick down again today and take him through what they felt was wrong with him using the word and the way he did last week, really. There's a bit to play out today, and it now gets down to how Mick Malthouse reacts to what Carlton says to him. And if it is brought forward, the fact that he's not going to be coaching next year, that is when this story moves on.
So do you think, is it, I know it's hypothetical, but you know Mick better than anyone. If they said, look, Mick, we have made a decision, you're not going to be renewed, which everyone thinks is the case anyway, what will his reaction be?
That's the unknown. Right. That's the absolute unknown. Okay. Until that moment and that statement is delivered to Mick, even I believe Mick does not know how he's going to react with the remaining 14 games this year.
So it depends on who you read over the last 48 hours. He's been sacked, will be sacked, will coach the year out. Let's just wait and see how it plays out.
It brought the timeline forward in terms of him...
The discussion. This is my favourite moment of the year so far. This game, this is what I expected last year in the grand final, Damo.
You shattered, weren't you, when it didn't happen?
Well, I shattered in the grand final because Sydney didn't come and turn up. This is what I expected, this sort of intensity. I mean, if you haven't watched this game of football, go and get it, because this is what it's all about. And particularly if you're an AFL footballer who plays at a team that doesn't get to play in these sorts of games, you need to... Look at this. It was mean and nasty even there. And look, that's symbolic for me. Sydney said we're not going to be pushed around. You can have lines in the sand or whatever you want to call it. But they said... and this is why I admire this footy club, Sydney. And don't forget, I love Hawthorn as well. But they... were embarrassed by their performance, and I know they all said we didn't talk about the grand final. It's in the absolute forefront of their mind. They had to redeem themselves. McGlynn went to Mitchell because Mitchell just cruised around on his own in the grand final. McVeigh had a horrible game. He kicked the ceiling 2 goals late in the piece. It was a belter of a game. Hawthorn lost no fans, but for Sydney, well coached by John Longmire, they just stood up and breathed life back into what is going to be an unbelievable season.
Look, the moment of footy games does strange things to people who are normally so self-assured, don't they, Gaz? And a couple of incidents here late in this game involving people who normally use the ball far better than we're seeing right now. Suckling, bang.
Look at the 2-on-1 he could have gone to down the line. That's what he'll be spewing about. This guy...
Bruce doesn't miss goals like that.
No. And Gunston at the 6-minute mark had missed one, or 6 minutes ago had missed one.
Yep. And then you get to Isaac Smith, who's normally a beautiful user of the ball, just does something inexplicable there. And then we get to the last 40 seconds and Cyril Rioli is going to grab that ball 99 times out of 100.
Well, he grabbed everything else during the night, Cyril. He was unbelievable, but those mistakes happen. They're extrapolated when it's the dying moments of a game. It was just a contest for the ages, and it's what is great about footy. Both sides are unbelievable. OK,
Luke Hodgkins needs to take a fair bit of responsibility for what happened in the 3 weeks he was out. They lost 2 of those 3 games that he missed with suspension. He was lucky it wasn't a 4-week suspension, which I believe it still should have been, but GWS, the first game he missed, and they fixed up Melbourne, which they were going to do regardless, and then on the weekend. So 2 of the 3 games he missed, captain of the footy club, he's put them back just a little bit further than they'd like to be.
I think you're right, and there was a shot of Hodgie in the box at one stage when it was at its physical and nastiest best, and you could just see him grinding his teeth because he would have loved to have been there.
He owes him something for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, and
he will do it.
He'll repay him, you'd reckon, given his history. What about North Melbourne, the side that you love and barrack for? I think they're a 7 out of 10 side. I keep saying that, and that means they're going to not quite get there at the end, but the losses against sides inside the 8, or certainly Port aren't at the moment, but the other 3 have been not great.
Well, that graphic says there is probably a 6 out of 10, doesn't it?
Yeah, well...
I mean those losses are really worrying. Really, really worrying.
Yeah, and I thought that over the years they had some really good results against top 4 sides last year, and you thought that maybe they'd tick that box, but that's come back to haunt them, and it's going to be an issue.
OK. Scott Pendlebury, guys. There's been a lot of players play 200 games for footy, but not many at the lofty levels of this man, and he just seemed a little bit out of sorts last week, maybe, with what may well have been an injury, but against the Gold Coast Suns, a very scrappy first half of footy, but this man just shone through.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything that is said is well-deserved, because he's a beautiful footballer who plays, you know, at 95 to 100% every single time he walks out on the park, and that's what I love. And then you add his skill component, that's you get a champion. So, I mean, there are players with, well, not equal ability, but similar, who don't go and bring that intensity each week, but he just fronts up, so he's a superstar.
Fremantle top of the ladder, West Coast second. Are you yet sold on the Eagles? 5 in a row now?
Saw them for the first time live on the weekend. Very organised footy side and a very confident footy side, playing really confident footy. So, yeah, they're finals bound.
You lock them in now?
Well, I've got a very favourable draw, playing the sort of footy that they are, then that you expect them to play, and who knows what's going to happen there. But well done, Adam Simpson.
OK. Footballers can be affectionate, guys, and they're happy to show it these days, even within the confines of a match itself. Bradley Hill, very happy with some teammates throughout the course of Saturday night.
Kiss for Shawnee Burgoyne.
He's kissing them, guys, not just patting them on the backside, but kissing them.
Kiss for Sammy Mitchell.
What would you do if you were kissed by a teammate within a game?
Well, if he's a good-looking man like Brad Hill, you'd just be happy with it, don't you?
I can't imagine you like it.
Hey, what about Nick Subin? This is a man that plays on the edge as well. Nasty, you know, gets involved. That's not the way to do it, Nick.
It's not, is it?
No.
It's dangerous on so many levels. And
really dangerous. So he got up and played on, but that technique just needs a tweak, no doubt about that.
You're old school.
I am.
You are. You would have liked this incident, wouldn't you? Geelong and Carlton Friday night, where Cam Guthrie wanted his Idols jumper, Chris Judd.
You know what? Everyone says it's great and we love it and all that sort of stuff, and that's fair enough. But what's Juddy supposed to do? I mean, they've lost the game by, what have they lost by, 77 points or something. Their club's about to blow up. He's played his worst game, I reckon, maybe ever. What is he going to do when Cam Guthrie publicly, in the middle of the ground, says, "Give us your jumper, Juddy"?
And this is the response from Cam Guthrie, just saying it was a privilege to play against Juddy, always great respect, and thanks for the jumper, Chris.
And a good on Cam Guthrie. I'm not being too serious about this. I say fair enough, good on him, but it did put him in an awkward spot.
But it was a nice moment.
Well, we could have probably rung him after the game.
No, you wouldn't see that jumper again. He had to do it there and then, and don't take away what was a very nice moment.
All right, I won't worry.
Don't be so grumpy about everything.
I won't. Now, listen, it is, of course, Indigenous Round Damo this weekend, with all 9 matches in the round played in 7 different states and territories as we celebrate our Indigenous heritage. So get along to watch the action, and this is the sort of footy we'll see being kicked around.
Nice.
Hair much better this week, Jack. Well done. Thanks for joining us.
Poor old Cam Guthrie, just doing something very nice, and you've got a problem with it.
I'm finishing the show, Damo. Button up. Thanks for joining us on Access to All Areas. Have a good week, and we'll catch you next Monday. Goodbye.